I think that everyone, every once in a while, has a crazy idea. And this is one of the crazier ideas that I've had in a while. So, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to Madlad Instruments. I am Drew. For those of you that are new around here, I am a guitar and bass body builder based out of McKinney, Texas. It's a small town, about 30 minutes north of Dallas. Actually, it's not small at all. There's 300,000 people that live here now. But grew up around here. I am building guitars out of my garage and documenting my journey as I dive into this wonderful world of instrument building and meeting all sorts of cool people and working with wonderful materials like what I've got here today. So one of the cool things about working in woodworking, guitar building, anything that involves something natural, a natural product like wood or the like, is that you are really at the mercy of God's creation and Mother Nature and all that good stuff. So every once in a while I have a great lumber sourcer, shout outs to Mike, he's my lumber guy, but every once in a while you'll get offcuts. This is basically what a body blank kind of looks like every once in a while, or a piece of a body blank. You glue two of these together and get a body blank, and ideally the edge right here would be flat. But as you can see, there's some live edging to it. This is probably a bark line or where the bark was on the wood. And sometimes you can't always cut those out. And so you'll get a body blank that has a rift where sometimes two live edges will come together. Sometimes one side just has a live edge, one doesn't. But you have to do something about that rift, and you can't just kind of work around it. And so I am, again, very blessed to work with some really incredible people. I have incredible clients all over the country. And one particular client, his name is Mike. We'll call him Mike. Mike, you know who you are. So Mike came to me and he said, hey, I'm going to be doing a really, really cool stain. So like if you could find a piece with some really interesting inclusions, maybe some knots or some interesting grain pattern, let's do that. And so we went back and forth on what the grain pattern looked like and everything like that. And then I thought to myself, because I had these two pieces with live edge slabs or live edges to them, and I glued them together, I'm like, I've been watching a ton of really satisfying epoxy, like live edge table builds and stuff like that. That's been something that's been done in furniture and boutique furniture building for probably decades now. What if we did that with a guitar body or a bass body? And so I took my crazy idea to Mike and I said, hey, in so many words, this is where I'm at. This is the blank that I have. Here's what I want to try and do. It's out of my wheelhouse. I don't normally do this, but if you're okay with it, why don't we give it a shot? And Mike was like, absolutely, that sounds rad. Let's go for it. So today I'm going to be documenting the process of how we took a potentially scrap piece of wood or a scrap piece of blank, and you can work around it and find a fun little way to pour some epoxy and basically turn it into a river style bass body or guitar body. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So here's our blank with the big old rift inside of it. And we're gonna pour some epoxy. So the epoxy that I use, as I'm putting my gloves on, because this stuff gets real sticky real quick. But the resin that I use, just found it on Amazon. It's this craft resin. Craft resin. The double R is tripping me up. That was 3 tries. Anyway, so epoxy resin, 2-part, quick curing, cures in like 24 hours it looks like, and you just mix it equal parts by volume, I believe. So I'm going to need to get a measuring vessel of some kind. Going to do equal parts. I think I'm going to do 2 ounces of the resin, 2 ounces of the hardener. That'll give us 4 whole ounces. Got a little cut off Starbucks cup, upcycling on that front as well. And I don't think I have to fill this whole rift necessarily because it's going to be carved down with the top carve and everything like that. So we can get a little creative with the machining and stuff like that, but usually epoxy mixes up and I always end up making more than I need. So I'm gonna do about 4 ounces of epoxy, and then we're gonna do a slight little tint to it, just a little bit of black, and that way it kind of sheens. I think the image that we're going for is that if light strikes it on a stage, it kind of just like glosses over, and I think that's a really cool pick. So we'll get this mixed up. It takes about 5 minutes to mix, and then we'll toss in some mica powder to make it just a little bit tinted darker, and hopefully we'll get a nice smoky effect from that. Oakley dokley, it is mixing time, and normally I would use my phone to set a timer. This needs to be mixed consistently for 5 minutes, And again, I thought 2 ounces wasn't going to be a whole lot, but this is a lot of epoxy, way more than I think I'll need for this full rift fill. But with that in mind, I've got my watch on. I'm keeping track. I'll set a timer for 5 minutes. We'll chat. And I was thinking about what to talk about when I actually got started here, before I got started here, but I was thinking about my watch. This is a beautiful watch that was gifted to me by my late grandmother as a gift for graduating college. The actual make and model doesn't matter as it pertains to this particular conversation, but I figured I'd just talk about grandparents. You know, I talk a lot about a lot of different topics during these yap sessions when I'm doing seemingly mundane stuff, but it's kind of a way for me to yap and talk into the universe, but also start a conversation with you guys, even though that we don't really know each other. Maybe we can impart some wisdom to one another and have a conversation as if we were side by side or just chatting. But yeah, grandparents. Grandparents are great. I have some of my fondest memories. My grandma grew up, or she didn't grow up, but I grew up going to my grandma's house. We used to live down in Austin. And my grandma had this beautiful house out in Dripping Springs. And this was, if you're from Austin, Dripping Springs is a lot different than it was back then. Dripping Springs used to be the country. But this was in the time before Wi-Fi and the internet was really kind of just starting to pop off, probably about 2002, 2003-ish. So around the country, beautiful, beautiful Austin Hill country. And the kind of house, you had a one-story like ranch house, and it was about 15 minutes away from where I lived, maybe a little bit more, but one of those kind of like you're out in the country, but it's only about 15 minutes if you need to get back into civilization type houses. And it was far enough away that like the deer would come in the morning and come, you know, eat. So they had like deer blocks and everything, and they would have the deer. You could come watch them. And when we would eat breakfast, we would see the deer come out. She had a back porch that you could sit on, this big old hill of a backyard that you could just run up and down. It was amazing. I can still taste the breakfast. I used to have those mini Eggos, because Eggos, they used to make these mini ones. I think they still do, but they come in 4, and it's about the same size as one full waffle. We used to have that, and bacon, and she used to always make me ham sandwiches and Pringles chips for lunch. I remember doing the little duck thing, or the duck lips with the Pringles and everything. And just some of the fondest memories that I ever have. Like I said, I can taste and I can remember and all that sort of stuff. So grandparents, grandma, and grandpa's house has a very, very special place, I think, in anybody's heart. I hope that you have a great relationship with your grandparents. My relationship with my grandparents continued to bloom even after when I was younger, when we moved up here to Dallas back in 2004, 2005-ish. My grandma basically said to my grandpa at the time, she's like, I can't be away from my grandbabies too long. And she was that kind of lady. She was very staunch, very upstanding. I always give credit that I was raised by some very strong women, my mother, my grandmother, and my sibling. And so so she was very strong in that way. And so they just hopped up and moved up to Dallas, and then they lived in a town, again, just about 15 minutes away. So I got to have a really, really great relationship and close relationship with my grandparent on my mother's side. And then my grandmother and grandfather on my father's side are also great as well. Fantastic Catholics, really helped raise me in the faith and everything like that. But I think the one thing that grandparents give and they give and they give, and like theirs is a selfless existence. Like, for the most part, and you know, I don't want to disparage it, because there are some people that don't have the best relationship with their grandparents, or their grandparents aren't the greatest people, and that's okay too. Don't think that I'm here like justifying the bad actions of some bad people and stuff like that. If you don't have the greatest relationship, I hope that it gets better, or that you get closure and feel better about that. But I just wanted to draw attention to the fact that I had a really, really great relationship with my grandparents, and I think that the life of a grandparent is one that's selfless. Like, you never hear about grandparents taking. They're always giving. They're always giving their time, their labors through like making you lunch or like driving you places. My grandma used to drive me to go get my allergy shots every Friday when we were down in Austin too. And so it's just a beautiful existence, one that is truly altruistic, one that you only ever give and you give and you give and you give. And I think our grandparents are one of the first people that model to us, like, what that kind of selfless living can be, because they're always happy, they're always giving of themselves, And so yeah, if you're a grandparent, I hope that you are, and I hope that you're blessed that you are. Make sure that you love your grandbabies as much as you can. Be as selfless as you possibly can. If you're a grandkid, definitely hang out with your grandparents a lot. They have so much to offer you. I think the one thing that blew me away is my grandma just kept giving until the very last day. Like, she had a lot of business advice because she worked like in the corporate world and worked at some really hoity-toity country clubs with some very affluent clients, and so she knew a lot about business and how to conduct yourself and stuff like that. And so when I was starting mechanics, she had a lot of like wisdom about like customer service and dealing with people and stuff like that. You've heard me talk about her in other videos as well, but she just used to give me all these nuggets, and she have all these great advice about relationships and stuff like that too. So there's the grandparents that you know and love when you're younger because you go to their house and they always have good food and they give you presents and stuff like that. And then there's like the ride or die grandparents that you have later in life who like just are an endless fount of wisdom that just continue to tell you exactly what you need at exactly the right time. And so cherish that, you know. Make sure that relationship is sacred and that you appreciate whatever side you're on. And I think about, I don't have a lot of regrets. In fact, I don't think I regret this thing, but every time I hear there's a really wholesome Instagram channel. I think it's just called Grandpop's Conversations, something like that. I'll put it over here, but he's a guy. He's an older African-American gentleman that I think lost his wife, but he's, you know, grandparent age, and so he'll get on and he'll make little videos, talk to you like you're his grandbaby, and he's always like, you know, I love you, grandbaby, and all that good stuff, and it just brings a tear to my eye, because it's so wholesome, and you know that he's providing for people who maybe didn't have the greatest relationship. But I remember one time, or in a lot of his videos, he used to always say, he's like, I know you're busy, but just give me a couple seconds. And my grandma used to always say that. It's like, I know you're busy, like, you know, I don't want to disturb you and everything like that. And it's hard because you are busy until there comes a day when you realize that you were too busy and, you know, you could have made a little bit more time. And I don't regret it. Like I said, I have plenty of fantastic moments and memories with my grandma, and I think she passed away in a very peaceful manner. And that if she were still here, we would still be conversing and everything. There's no resentment there, but it took me some time to reflect, or gave me some time to reflect and think about, like, yeah, you know, I know you're busy, but what's really behind that phrase? Like, I know you're busy, but I really need you, or I know you're busy and I don't want to disturb you. And so ask yourself if you really are too busy in those sort of circumstances. But above all, much love for the grandparents of the world. I think that takes us to, I've been yapping for a good 8 minutes now, so we're way past the time that we need for mixing this up. I'm gonna grab some mica powder really quickly. This is what we're actually going to use to tint this stuff. Don't want to drop it. Just have graphite black. It's called graphite black. And I'm gonna add this very, very sparingly. Again, we still want kind of a clear look to it, but just the littlest hint of black. So maybe not even that much. Let's see what that does to us. A little bit of tint. Let's see what we can get. There's a lot of volume here, so it may take a little bit to get the tint that I'm looking for. But yeah, shout out to all the grandparents. If you're a grandparent, much love. Be sure to hug your grandbabies super duper hard when you can. Next opportunity that you have. And if you're a grandchild, make sure that you let your grandparents know that you appreciate you, or you appreciate them, sorry, and that they mean the world to you, because you certainly mean the world to them. Alrighty, maybe just a little bit more. Maybe we'll do a little more tint here. Just a little bit. So you can always add more, but can't really take away. So yeah, this is a nice kind of smoky gray color. I don't know if it's coming through on the actual video, but I think this is where we want to be. And of course, when it cures and everything like that, it might, you know, shift a little bit. So that's okay too. Alrighty. I think that about gets it. We got just a couple other bubbles here. I think if you mix it, then you kind of just work that out. And the other thing that helps is heat. If you have bubbles in an epoxy pour, you can put heat to it, and the bubbles usually evaporate. So, hold on to your butt. Here goes nothing. This is the super satisfying part that all those epoxy table or river table videos, this is the part that you always wait for. Also, my rig up, I don't know if you guys noticed, but it's literally just the 2 pieces of scrap wood and give that a second to settle. A lot of people use that red tape. There's like a brand of tape that comes in a red roll that most people use for epoxy. I don't know the exact name, but don't got that. We're doing it old school here, but we'll give this a little bit of time to settle. I'm realizing it may go over the edge here, so maybe I want to like tape that off. This could get messy. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna go set this over here. We're gonna let this cure, and I'm gonna figure out a way to hopefully not get this epoxy to spill over the side of the blank. Oh, it's already going. Okay, let me figure this out. I'll be right back. Alrighty, the river has been poured. Got this really cool effect, still slightly translucent, but just the littlest bit of dark, exactly what we're looking for. And now we have it mounted up on the CNC. It is about to go the distance, or go the end mill, I guess you could call it. I'm trying to think of a way to make this poetic. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get this started on CNC and see what comes out on the other side. I've talked about it in other videos, but the way that I do my CNC is I basically just take the center seam or wherever the glue up is and use that as my center line. And then I have a index line on my CNC spoil board that I'll use. We'll carve the top, flip it over, and because it's on the center line, you rotate it over and it's still indexed correctly and all that good stuff. So, gonna get this started, get a little time-lapse footy for you guys, and we'll go from there. And from here, what proceeded is the classic Madlad A's for Drew sanding montage. We are doing a standard progressive sand up to 320 that I do on all my bodies, but something that's a little bit different since we're using epoxy, and another property of epoxy that I absolutely love and makes it a dream to work with is that you can sand the absolute snot out of epoxy and it just gets shinier and shinier. So here in a second you're going to see me actually hit it with my sanding disc. So I'm sanding it out by hand using some water, and I think I go up to like 2000 grit on this, and it just gets shinier and shinier and looks better and better. I really enjoyed this process. Sanding is just therapeutic, but seeing the extra shine come through is a really nice treat. Here's a little bit of B-roll for you. As you can see, translucent, just a little bit of dark, like we mentioned earlier, and you can just see through to the bottom. And here was, I think, halfway through, that's why you see the scuff marks, but those did polish out, and then a little bit of a overpass shot here too. So admittedly, I buried the lead. You guys got to see the final product at the start of the video, but hopefully you enjoyed the build up and seeing how we got here. I am super duper pleased with how this came out. I learned a lot about epoxy and how to go about processing epoxy, especially after the fact. You saw us doing you saw me doing, it's you and I, we did it together. You're just watching after the fact. But wet sanding all the way up to 3000 grit, getting it really, really nice and clear, but it is just the littlest bit of translucent, but still dark, which I think is exactly what the doctor, aka Mike, ordered. And I can't wait to see what this comes out to be. Based on what Mike is describing, hopefully he'll send pictures. If he does, I'll be sure to post them on the Instagram. Go follow the Instagram, link down below. But really, really stoked. This opens up, like, crazy ideas lead to more crazy ideas. And I'm just thinking about all the live edge slabs that I've gotten over the years and how I've had to work around them and stuff like that. And now maybe I can start doing river style guitar bodies, which aren't necessarily novelty. People have been doing epoxy fills on, guitar bodies from what I've seen, but they'll do like around the edge, or they'll take like a burl piece and they'll fill it with epoxy. But as far as doing like a seam line or like a kind of live edge in the middle, those are very few and far between. So I definitely think this will be going into the Madlad product lineup. We'll see. We'll put it up on Reverb. Go check out the Reverb store down below. And what's really cool is that it is really just luck of the draw when it comes to like what kind of cuts I can get. I can literally source stuff with live edges, and whatever those live edges look like will determine what the river, the pour will look like. So no two are ever going to be the exact same. I think that's really rad, especially if you're somebody who's built a lot of instruments and you're looking for something a little bit different or a little bit of a change up. So very, very blessed as always. Like I say it time and time again, but I'm just so thankful to God and to all of you that, you know, I get to do this each and every day. You guys have really, this has been some of the busiest that I've ever been. It seems like every time I come and do a video, I'm always getting more and more busy. So thank you so much for everybody who's ordered a body, or even if you're just watching or you follow on Instagram, every little bit helps, and you have made this an amazing, amazing ride thus far. So more of these to come. We'll wrap up in the normal way. Always remember to like, comment, and subscribe, do all that stuff so that you can see future videos. But more importantly than that, always remember that you are wanted, you are loved, and you are appreciated. You have a special talent that nobody else has, and the world is waiting on you to bring it out. So muster a little courage, go out into the world, and change it. That's what the world's waiting on, you. You always have a friend in Christ, and you always have a friend in me. Be good to one another, and I'll see you in the next one.